is Monday, September 2nd, 2019. It's Labor Day, folks. Welcome to Raging Chicken's Out to Coop podcast. This is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken Press. Each week I talk to our capital muckraker in chief, Sean Kitchen, about the good, the bad, and the ugly in state and national politics. On this week's show, yes, it is a special Labor Day show. Spent my Friday setting some concrete footers for a deck up the mountains. But back now for Labor Day, yes, indeed. On today's show, a poll last week from the Monmouth University showed a three-way tie between Sanders, Warren, and Biden. Now, polls since then seem to show that poll may have been an outlier, but as the game season heats up, we'll be watching this more closely, and that may be the first chink in the armor of Biden's poll numbers. And Trump moved this week to rescind more environmental rules that will increase the pace of climate change. Yes, that's right, because that's what we need right now. Trump has now worked to roll back a total of 84 environmental rules. Well, and Biden seems to be annoying some Pennsylvania labor leaders. Yeah, he is not committed to attending the Philadelphia AFL-CIO candidate forum on September 17th to 18th. President of Philly AFL-CIO Pat Eiding went on NPR to express his frustration. Ooh, that's tough for like a guy who loves to claim his Pennsylvania working class Scranton roots. It'd be kind of upsetting the labor leaders down in Philadelphia. Probably not the best play. Oh boy, and Category 5 Hurricane Dorian is battering the Bahamas. This is the most powerful storm to hit the Bahamas in recorded history. Trump said this weekend, after this going on, he never heard of a Category 5 hurricane. Didn't know they could turn it up that big. I thought it was like they turned up the volume to 4, and now they turned up to 5. Look what's going on.
We go to 11, sir.
We go to 11, sir. There you go. Spinal Tap. Meanwhile, some Christians gathered on the Florida beach to pray the hurricane away. Dorian, go away, please, God. Well, Dorian seems to be turning away from Florida. Apparently they've done this before, so, I don't know, 2 for 2, batting 1,000. Because that's what really is going on there. It's God. Just so you know, I'm just saying. And this week, Greta Thunberg arrived safely in New York City. This is for the UN Climate Summit and climate actions. Activists greeted her on shore chanting, "Sea levels are rising and so are we." I'm telling you, we are in for a month of climate action potentially we have not seen before. As the focus will be on the UN Climate Action Summit, but more so on the streets and people that are gathering in New York City to demand action now. And this is actually probably just only going to add more fuel to the fire because the right wing responded as you would expect. Yes, as Thunberg made her trip across the Atlantic in a zero carbon impact sailboat, the right wing decided that the best choice that they had was, to criticize her looks and her Asperger's. Thunberg, not to be deterred, responded on Twitter and Instagram saying, "Hey, when haters go after your looks and differences, it means they have nowhere left to go. And then you know you're winning." I'm telling you.
Well, they went to the straight pride parade this week.
Oh, there you go. That's a good thing. We gotta talk about that. All right. Well, Star Wars is back on, everybody. Trump has formally reestablished the U.S. Space Command at a White House ceremony this weekend. Now, he got the ball rolling back like December 18th or something like that. But, yep, it's a fully established, and we are ready to go to war in space. There you go. And close to home, it's Free Will at another double can release this past weekend. Village Fest and Angel. They will be closed today for Labor Day, but so you're going to have to wait just one extra day or so before you can go pick up your 4-packs. But I'll talk a little bit more about them at the end of the show today. I want to remind everybody to tune into The Rick Smith Show on Free Speech TV this and every Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern. You can stream the show live at freespeech.org and also tune in on the Dish Network, DirecTV, or through the Free Speech TV app on Roku. And make sure you download every day, go and download the Rick Smith Show daily podcast on iTunes, Podbeans, or wherever you get your podcasts. Yes. And want to remind everybody, if we want a progressive future, we need progressive media. And you can help support Pull No Punches, homegrown progressive media today. Become a member of Raging Chicken Press for as little as $5 a month. Simply go to patreon.com/RCPress and choose your membership level. If you're not ready to become a member, just go to ragingchickenpress.org, click that big blue donate button, and give us whatever you can spare. But the best way to keep investing in keeping the media in the movement in the media, is become a member for as little as $5 a month by going to patreon.com/rcpress today. Well, there we have it, man. I'll tell you. This is going to be yet another of our kind of closing out the summer episodes. We didn't go on Friday this past week because I had to go away to help kind of build a deck, and got to use a hydraulic auger for the first time, which was pretty freaking awesome. So spent, another weekend up the mountains, so campfires and work, which was good.
Nice.
So, how you been, Sean?
I went out taking bird pictures last week.
Cool. What kind of birds?
Just the green herons that are still occupying Wildwood Park out here.
You got a little obsession with those birds or something?
Oh, I think they're awesome.
Yeah.
When I showed up there, it was like a Saturday morning. I think like last Saturday or Saturday before.
They're all like, Sean!
No, there were like 10 birding photographers there. Like, it looked like a press gaggle almost.
Oh, really?
With people like lined up in a straight line with their lenses all lined up. And there had to be like $40,000 worth of lenses and equipment there. With all the photographers that were there. But the thing is, like, we have a green heron nest, a couple of them in Wildwood, which is apparently pretty, like, they're rare seeing them up here.
Yeah.
Like, they're only in a few spots. So that's pretty cool. And, it's bringing photographers around from, like, Maryland and, like, all, like, a couple hours away to come up and film this.
It's because they're all, like, following your Instagram account, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That's what brought him here.
Kitchen.snaps. That's snaps with a Z at the end.
There you go.
Not like snaps as I snap.
As you snap.
Snap, like with my attitude or anything. It snaps, like with the sound of the shutter.
I'm glad you explained that in fine detail for all the 3-year-olds out there, Sean.
No problem. There may be some confusion with that.
Snaps. No, that's not a twitch you see on Sean. It's just the sound of the shutter.
Yes.
Oh, man. Well, yeah, so we just kind of got a few things to talk about. Look, I know a ton of stuff is going on, and some of the stuff is not making the news right now, in part because it is the last, official weekend of summer, or kind of unofficial, I guess. I mean, technically summer goes through September, but, Labor Day is the kind of cultural closeout. A lot of people away, myself included. Things are kind of low-key, lots of people on there, but there's been a lot of stuff in the news. Look, it gets real now. And, I mean, not that it's not been real up until now, but when it comes to the presidential race, that's going to start really kicking in. My guess is that what we're going to be facing going forward is that we're going to see the rhetoric and the actions about attacks against immigrants and kind of people of color are only going to be increasing from the Trump candidacy. We're going to see the Democratic race is going to get very, I think, interesting and heated as only 10 candidates qualified for this month's debate down in Houston. And like I said, this past week, the Monmouth University poll came out, and it showed a three-way tie between Sanders, Warren, and Biden, all right around the 20% mark. And that's kind of, and technically, well, yeah, I mean, all around the 27% mark. And, there's been some cautions about this poll, in part because the sample size was a little smaller than some of the other ones. Even Monmouth itself has come out and said, look, we're not saying that this is a trend, right? We're not saying that this shows here. Matter of fact, they had a follow-up poll there that kind of showed kind of a little bit more in line with some of the other polls that have been out there showing Biden still kind of up ahead. But the fact that you had a poll at all come out with showing that three-way tie, I think is going to start making its way at least into the media narrative. And as people are starting to pay closer attention to Joe Biden and closer attention to the race itself, I think we're going to start seeing more of this kind of stuff.
I was also reading over the weekend that Biden has been polling really well with respondents of rotary phones.
Oh, well, there you go. I always thought that the rotary phone demographic was overlooked.
Yes, I think it's definitely an under-recorded population size out there.
I agree because that's the kind of stuff that could throw the entire election, right? We saw all the polling problems last time, and the fact that you've got this this enormous group of people out there who are still just using rotary phones. And they're underrepresented. I think could be a real problem, Sean. I think we need to focus on them. So two things: the white male kind of right wing Trump voter, and the rotary phone people. I think that's where the Democrats should go.
I think if you look at a Venn diagram of them two, it's just like one big circle.
There's like some slight areas around the edges, like a crescent moons on the edges that don't overlap, but everything else is pretty much right there.
Yeah,
right in the center of the eclipse. That's funny. Oh my god!
No, but I mean more seriously, I think this. I think what this poll does, even if it's an outlier, shows you pretty much what we've been saying. There's 3 or 4 candidates, legitimate candidates in this race. Kamala Harris seems like to be sinking, but it's Sanders, Warren, Biden, and Harris.
Right,
and 4 candidates, and
yeah,
really just anyone else at this point. I'm not going to get into fights about them. I think Beto should be running for Senate down in Texas. Apparently, there's a lot of good people running for Senate down there, but whatever.
Yep.
I mean, you had Hickenlooper drop out. He's running for Senate. Bennett needs to drop out, or Bullock needs to drop out and run for Senate. I think he did that, right?
Yeah, I think he did.
Which is good. But no, I mean, there are 4 people in this race. It's going to be those 4 when it comes down to it, and we'll see where it goes from there.
Well, one thing I did notice about some of the polling this week from
and also like Liz Warren is polling really well in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, she is.
I don't think we talked about this, but a couple weeks ago, Franklin and Marshall poll came out and showed that Warren and Biden are pretty much neck and neck in Pennsylvania, which goes to show you he might not be getting any hometown love here in the state.
No, look, I mean, I think
only support is going to be coming from northeastern PA.
Well, and I think that his story, it just doesn't mesh, or it doesn't connect in the same way that it did, back in 2008, right? His story about kind of that Pennsylvania, it just doesn't fit in the same way, So I don't know. So we'll see. I mean, the Warren thing is interesting, and you look at the polls that have been out. Like, so just to give you a brief rundown, you basically got like an economist poll. Just to give you a sense of the differences that's going on here. You basically got the economist poll shows that Biden at +4, right? You used to have Emerson, right, with Biden at +7. Right, and then you go up to the other, the other end of stuff. And of course, the Monmouth poll shows it as a tie, and then the outlier on the other side is USA Today poll had Biden at +18. So you can see this is kind of all over the place. And again, these ones right here are national polls, right? And national polls are always something that they give you maybe a little bit of a gauge of what's happening, but not so much what's happening in the primary states. So there's a lot of stuff is going to be happening. So. Mm-hmm. We'll see. The Pennsylvania ones are going to be. It's going to be quite interesting, I have to say.
Yeah.
So we'll watch that, and it'll be fun to kind of see the debate coming up and how that is going to go. I know I'm going to be watching a little bit with some more interest on this. I was very pleased actually that Yang actually made it, and I'm very happy about that. I think
he needs to go.
Not yet.
I think he needs to go. He's a bad candidate. If you want, he's not the messenger for UBI at this point. He's against the minimum wage, increasing minimum wage. He just shows you that he's more or less in line as this tech guru from California who has some good ideas but is shitty everywhere else. And pretty much I have no interest in really hearing from him anymore. Like, to me, he's like another Marianne Williamson.
But he's funny. and he's attacking Trump. And I think I like his math hat. Sean's like looking at me with disgust. Here's why I'm glad that Yang made it. I'm in all seriousness, I'm glad is that everything you said I agree with, right? Is that in terms of actually a candidate to get behind? No. But what I would love to be able to see, right, is the fact, because look, he's increased his following, right? Particularly around UBI and everything that you said about, yes, he's against minimum wage, against a bunch of other stuff. He wants a gut social program, all that kind of stuff is true. But to be able to kind of bring UBI into the conversation, and if we have one more shot at this debate, to see if you're going to have some of the other candidates beginning to kind of talk about the problems with his UBI and to begin to articulate what a kind of more progressive UBI would look like. I think that'd be really interesting. This is my pie in the sky wish. I don't think that's going to happen, but he will be on stage, and I do have to say, just at the entertainment level, I'm a fan. I would never vote for the guy though. The other thing that I have to say, this surprised me actually, Sean. One of my biggest surprises about the poll averages is that Sept is still technically running for president. He's polling at 0, but his name is still there. Which surprises the hell out of me. So
I was at a
Sept rally.
No, I got something even better for you.
Oh, awesome!
I was walking Capona this weekend, and the Dauphin County Dems have their own tent set up, and you have like a button poll. So you pick a candidate's button, put it in the thing, and we have a really good button maker here in Harrisburg who's been making awesome buttons for like candidates all across the state. And making buttons for us down here in Central PA, especially with the Young Dems and stuff like that. Saw a button with the button poll. I did not see any empty buttons, so it was still there. And he had no support. But Alan Howes was on there, was represented for running for president on this poll.
Oh, really now?
Yes. You haven't noticed that Alan Howes been running for president?
I have not.
Yes. Alan Howe has been running for president and has been coming up. I like Alan. I think he's a nice person, but a little too heady in endeavors.
And how's he polling?
I think he's polling above Sept.
Oh, there you go. There you go. That's something. There you go. Oh my God. Oh, God. Oh, let me just see something.
I guess Sept needed to get out of the house for a few weeks, and that's why he's running for president.
Yeah,
or sell some books that no one bought in 2015.
Could be. That could be. Oh boy. Okay, so what else we got here?
I guess we can go talk about the AFL forum.
Yeah, hold on. I just lost my page here. Man, this tells you where I'm at. It's like here we go. Sorry. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about that. Take it away.
So this struck me really interesting this past week. Clout published an article basically with the Philadelphia AFL-CIO president, Pat Eiding, calling out Joe Biden for not RSVPing to a Philadelphia AFL labor forum that's going to be happening on September 17th and overflowing to the 18th if need be. This is going to be down at the Philadelphia Convention Center. I'm going to try to get down there for this. And use my cred with the Young Dems.
There you go. Your cred.
This was actually really interesting because you had Pat Eiding going on NPR and calling Joe Biden out for not RSVPing to this event. And imagine the amount of frustration on the Pat Eiding side it had to get to this point. I'm trying to speak carefully on this, not mince my words, but no, I mean, it's definitely pretty interesting to see that it had to get to this point. For an event that pretty much seems like a no-brainer, with your campaign office being in Philadelphia, with you using Pennsylvania as your roots, even though you've been senator of Delaware for the past 40 years and vice president, but
right.
It's it's definitely it's definitely a shot across the bow. That Labor is not going to fall in line with the presumed candidate this time around.
Right,
and that they have learned that lesson from 2016, which is really good. It's refreshing that you have people out there who have the power that they have within the labor movement, recognizing that we have to take a step back and that we cannot jump ahead into an endorsement.
Right. And look, and Biden has got this history of, we've talked about this with Stacey Abrams. We talked about this, he did with Elizabeth Warren way back in the day, is that he's got this history of wanting to perform, right, wanting to kind of get into the news cycle as, getting unearned credibility, right, by associating himself publicly with certain people, or in this case, labor, right, or Pennsylvania, for example, without really kind of like fully kind of committing to it, right? Because we remember that Biden back in the day, right, one of his first fundraising stop was Comcast, right? Not exactly labor-friendly territory.
And this is what Eiding said on the radio, on the NPR. First place he goes is the home of the Comcast head. No connection with labor. And they go forward, and it was a little disturbing because I thought, quote, well, here we go again. Like, I mean, it's, for him to go on to NPR to say that, Bob Brady, who's acting as a surrogate for Biden, it looks like, at least in his article, pretty much said Biden will try to find a way to be there. He'll try to figure out a way to go, which for me, like, this doesn't seem like it's, it doesn't seem like it's, that promising on Biden's behalf. I mean, like, you skip this event, you run the risk of losing all credibility with labor. And I guess he's trying to figure out, do I go to this event, stick my neck out there and get yelled at by rank and file members, or do I have a private meeting with Eiding and the Philadelphia AFL-CIO, which is what the campaign offered, and the AFL-CIO rejected.
Right, which is smart. Like, if you're labor in that situation, we were talking about this before we went on the air. If you're labor in that situation, you don't want to be in a position where, a candidate is then going to be kind of like being able to create a media kind of narrative that's saying, look,
false endorsement.
Right, this is kind of like an endorsement, and this is a closet endorsement, or look, they're already behind Biden. And I could see that's the kind of thing I mean is what he would do with Abrams and did with Elizabeth Warren back in the day, was to try to kind of use their kind of cultural standing in a way that would kind of foster a narrative, or at least perception among voters. And look, you got to wonder, like, what the Biden campaign is after here, because it's pretty much like nationally acknowledged that Pennsylvania is going to be one of the key states in play for this next election. So, like, if you basically have you've alienated labor in the state, right, and then you get the nomination, and say if Biden gets the nomination and he's kind of like been cool with labor, right, and then he's going to go up against Trump, right, you've just basically you basically undercut your ground troops. I mean, you cannot win in here. And so why would some people he comes in, he said, why is this guy is kind of pissing us off. Why are we going to kind of get behind him? We're not going to do it enthusiastically. And that's exactly the kind of scenario that is kind of ready-made for Trump.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, where Eiding's dead on, right? It's like, here we go. We're going to do this again, are we?
And really, like, the first place he went to was a place that was very hostile to unions.
Yeah, exactly.
The first group of people he asked for their money were people who are extremely hostile to unions and to working people. Like, I mean, come on now, it's Comcast we're talking about here. Like, one of the most anti-union companies in the country, one of the largest telecom corporations in the country, who basically own a monopoly and who treat their workers like shit. And I mean, like, I'm sorry, but this is a bad look from day one with Biden announcing.
No, that's right. I mean, like look,
David Cohen's house on the first day.
Right, and you remember this is right back to the kind of like the Bill Clinton playbook, right? The Democratic Leadership Council, the DLC, that centrist kind of thing. The one things that they would do, that Democrats would do, that are cut from that cloth, is they kind of like be tough with labor or be tough with those people that are normally supporting, with the theory that they've got no place else to go. So they're trying to build public support with this kind of mythical middle, right? And by being tough on the kind of the base of the Democratic Party, right? Under the impression or the thought that those people will have to come home eventually because there's no place else to go. Well, guess what? I mean, the ground has
Clinton
shifted
did that in 2016, and guess what? People didn't come out and vote.
Exactly. Right? Exactly. And any energy in the party right now is so far removed from that kind of cultural context that
you look at like the support from labor right now is at a 60-year high. Gallup poll just showed. Like you have article after article after article come out, especially within the left progressive blogosphere, where like labor is at the forefront of this election. Like this is probably the first. This is definitely my first election where labor has been this assertive and where labor has been getting this much attention. And I mean, like we're seeing the revival of the labor movement in the post-Janus, and yeah, you're not going to be able to get away with that stuff anymore. I mean, like look at the stuff in the reforms, the initiatives that like Pennsylvania Democrats have taken up over the past couple of years, and what Pennsylvania Democrats have put into their platform. You know, like free public higher education.
Boom.
You know. Automatic union registration,
Boom.
like card check legislation, making it easier since like federal workers, not federal, since private unions are under NLRB and public sector unions are not, we have legislation pending. You know, it's not going to go anywhere until we flip a chamber or two where card check legislation that will dramatically change the way union organizing is done in this state, making it a hell of a lot easier for unions to get going in shops without having to go through an election. You get 50+1 to sign a card, and then you go to the bargaining table. Like, that's how Canada does it with their stuff. Like, you're seeing this shift, especially in Pennsylvania politics, where, you know, Pennsylvania Democrats have always been seen as like this moderate Republican-esque type monolith where, like, Republicans from southeastern PA were more liberal than the Democrats from Western Pennsylvania. That's obviously has changed within the past few years. The base of the Democratic Party is now in the southeastern part of the state. And like we are putting progressive policy platforms out there as a state party that probably would not have happened in 2016. I remember going to the Bill Clinton event where Bill Clinton pretty much told college students, suck it up. You're not getting free public higher education.
Yep, I remember that.
And that you're the reason why 2010 happened and the Tea Party wave took everything out and the dismantling of the ACA and stuff like that. Like that browbeating is not happening anymore. There's no space for that within the party.
Yep. No, exactly. If anything, it's going the opposite direction.
Yeah.
It's the ground up. The ground is beating up. Right.
Yeah.
You know.
And no, it's yeah. I mean, it's amazing from reading this that it had to get to this point with his campaign.
Yep.
Like to publicly chastise him on NPR is pretty like that's a swing. I mean, like,
yep.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. It takes. It's for me as an observer. It's amazing. It took to that. It got to that point where this something like this should have been a no-brainer. But like Biden has been snubbing major events all campaign season.
Yep.
California and a couple of other ones. Like he does not want to be in a position where he's going to get booed. And that's probably what he's afraid of right here.
I'm sure.
Imagine a bunch of rank and file members. Like the people organizing this has been in the work. This forum's been in the works for a couple months now. Got wind of it back in June from a couple of friends. Like, yeah, it's late. Yes, the AFL-CIO is sponsoring this. They're putting it on. But I know some of the people are also helping putting it, and they're the rank and file part of the movement.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the organizers from Philadelphia. And I mean, I guess that's what he doesn't want to go and do is go in front of rank and file workers and run the risk of getting booed at.
Yep.
And going into a potentially hostile situation.
Well, it knows that, look, he's going to get challenged on things that matter to working families, right? And then
universal health care.
Right. And then he does not have good answers to that when it comes out to the campaign. So he knows that challenge and that confrontation that will happen, it will make itself out into the kind of the broader narrative, right? And that he does not want to go up against Sanders and Warren on content. He wants to do it on kind of glitz, and that's it. And, you know, frankly, his glitz is kind of, I don't know, dirty, to say at least. It's like dirty's the wrong word. It's more kind of like faded.
Yeah, it's lackluster
There you go. That's the word.
I said this last year. I just don't think he has it in him physically to do this.
Yeah.
And yeah, we'll see. I mean, like that was just my opinion. Last year, seeing him at a couple of the events, and I mean, I'm actually surprised he's running right now.
Well, it's going to play itself out, man. It's going to play itself out, and we'll be there. So, oh boy. Well, in the natural world, we have a different kind of hurricane going on, like a real one, and we have Hurricane Dorian coming in, battering the Bahamas, and it's really a devastating storm. And one of the things, about this one that
I thought it was going to be battering Alabama.
Well, that's what apparently our president had secret information about this, right? I mean, it was going to make some sort of kind of curly Q turn and then go around Florida and hit Alabama. Is that the deal? Is that how it was going to happen?
Yeah, I think so.
Or was it going to leapfrog? Well, you heard that thing too as well. What he was kind of considering, he wanted to drop nukes in the center of the eye. Did you hear about that?
Yes.
That was always fun. Like that, and apparently they actually really considered that, like back in the 50s. Like they thought, what would happen if you went into this? And they basically, quickly realized that, number one,
the fucking radiation will go everywhere.
Right, exactly. Number one, it doesn't really work. Right. Number two, then you have fallout shelters. Right. I mean, there's you're instead of hurricane shelters, you need fallout shelters. So
I watched
lose.
Watch a bunch of documentaries that were on. I don't know if it was Ken Burns who did this or another liberal documentarian. Pretty much we were talking about this a few weeks ago, or a couple months ago, post World War II and the rise of nuclear proliferation, and how really a changing moment in our country's history was the screwing over of Henry Wallace, and that led the way for Harry Truman, who was a very extremely incompetent president. You actually look into Truman's history. Very incompetent, not smart, not a good decision maker, and Henry
but it was
Wallace,
the Truman Doctrine, Rand. The Truman Doctrine.
But it should have been Wallace that got that nomination, and the whole entire thing is how the outcome of the Cold War and the course of history would have changed if Truman never got the vice presidential nomination, simply because of him dropping nuclear bombs. And how crazy we went in the 50s and 60s, where we were pretty much just dropping nukes anywhere possible. It wasn't just we dropped 2 nuclear bombs. No, we were dropping this shit anywhere and everywhere we could think of that would not hurt humanity.
Well, that's how we got SpongeBob. Come on.
Oh, a Bikini Bottom?
Yeah, exactly. What are you kind of anti-SpongeBob or something like that?
Yes,
the world would be not as good of a place if SpongeBob had not kind of risen from the kind of nuclear radiation Bikini Atoll. Come on.
But I mean,
thank you, Truman.
But they knew back in the 50s about this stuff. It's amazing that he went and was actually considering this. Did you see the posts about police officers or police accounts telling people not to shoot their guns at the hurricane?
I did not. Are you serious?
Yes. So it has a diagram of the winds and everything with the hurricane. So it's a cross section of the hurricane, right? Mm-hmm. And it has the arrows of the momentum of it getting sucked up. And it's if you shoot, the bullets will fly back at you. They'll fly back in your general direction because of the centrifugal force.
I can't even, Sean. Are you serious?
Yes, I am dead serious.
I'm looking that up right now. Well, so I guess those we have the people who were not shooting their guns, however, had a more powerful force to kind of turn the hurricane away. They were successful,
and that's God.
That's God.
Yes. So PSA Florida. I don't know if this. Okay. So I don't know if this is real or not. But it looks like it came from a troll account. But people actually do shoot their guns at the hurricanes, so it might actually be real. But it says bullets come back, don't shoot, and it has bullets going to the hurricane and then getting lifted up because of the barometric pressure and everything, and then the centrifugal force.
Oh my God! Bullets come back, don't shoot.
But praying the hurricane away seemed to be a more effective strategy this time around.
Yeah, well, at least it doesn't threaten you in a secondary way,
Yeah, no.
Like,
Like
if you
a bunch of
fail,
Christians
like,
were
it's not-
standing on the beachfront with their hands out, praying the hurricane away, and they had success with Irma. And now, like, it looks like they'll have success with Dorian. You know, if they keep it up, they may be able to make it into Cooperstown.
Oh,
With that track record.
Yeah, well, more proof that science really doesn't matter, because it's all about the prayer, thoughts and prayers, man. But seriously, this is Dorian is the strongest hurricane that has ever hit the Bahamas, at least in recorded history. And the thing that is really scary about this thing is that it's moving at 1 mile per hour. Right, so all the warnings that you're getting from the track, the current track is taking it away from Florida because of thoughts and prayers, away from Florida and then up the coast, and
it looks like it's going to go out to sea.
Potentially, right? So the cone is still like that. The hurricane cone, the tracking cone, still has Georgia and South Carolina and several of the coastal cities still an possible threat, but. Since it's moving so slowly, right, the promise is that it's going to bring a ton of rain too as well, and kind of really damaging winds to the coast if it stays even on its current track. So we'll see what goes on. Just kind of wild seeing this thing develop into yet another monster. So we can only hope.
I mean, and we're getting to the point where we're going to get storms like this big that will literally wipe islands off the face of the map. Like, sea level rise is going to do that, but we're also going to be having hurricanes like Irma and Maria that are going to literally just wipe islands.
Well, think about this, right? In Bahamas right now, where Bahamas hit they're talking about a storm surge, right, of 18 to 23 feet, right? So to put that in perspective, that's above a 2-story building, okay? But the Bahamas most of the Bahamas are only about 3 to 4 feet above sea level. So you're talking about a storm surge that is going to submerge the entire island.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, or islands, I should say. That's crazy.
Yeah. Like if this was like over the Carolinas and over the barrier islands, this storm would just wipe away the barrier islands. Like there would be no more like Outer Banks and stuff like that. Like that they would just disappear.
Right.
I'm being metaphorical here with this, but like this is the type of stuff where like these storms are going to start getting this strong. I mean, like, yeah. But apparently Trump has never heard of a Category 5 hurricane before.
Well, it is counting pretty high, Sean.
He never knew they existed. He thought it stopped at 4.
Yep. I didn't know they got this big.
Let me see if I can pull up the quote, but he was just pretty much like, here we go. Here we go. So September 14th, 2017. Oh my God. So they announced like all the times that Trump has said a Category 5 has no one ever heard of a Category 5. So I'm going to run through this real quick because it's on Twitter.
Yeah, go for it.
September 14th, 2017. It actually hit the Keys it was a Category 5. I never even knew a Category 5 existed. September 26, 2017. So we'd never seen it. It actually touched down as a Category 5. People have never seen anything like that. October 19th, 2017. But then they got hit dead center. If you look at those maps by a Category 5, no one has ever heard of a 5 hitting land. May 8th, 2019. It's a couple years later, or a year and a half. So it's I've just come to stop at Tyndall Air Force Base, where I saw devastating effects of the Category 5 hurricane. Category 5. Never heard about it. Category 5s before. A Category 5 is big stuff. And then a couple days ago, this past weekend, he said, I'm not sure that I even heard of a Category 5. I knew it existed. I've seen some Category 4s. You don't even see them that much, but a Category 5 is something that I don't know. I don't know. I've never even heard of them, that term, other than I know it's there. That's the ultimate. And that's why we have that's what we have, unfortunately.
Well, from what I understand, it's going to bring a lot of rain, especially in terms of water. That was like one of the other things. This guy is a fucking joke. I mean,
did you ever see the Yeah, I don't know if he. So we were talking about this Trump yesterday, like this type of stuff. Is he actually a amnesia or not amnesia patient, a dementia
Alzheimer's?
patient?
Yeah.
Or has he been like, which he has, like this narcissistic going back into the 80s? Where, I mean, like, this is exactly how he talked 30 years ago.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
I mean,
exactly.
I watch a couple of documentaries on him from like the 80s and all, and I am like, oh my God, this is the same exact person.
Exactly. This is exactly it.
Like, this is like, I don't know about, like, I'm torn. Is he a dementia patient or is he just this much of a narcissistic prick? Like nothing has changed since like the 80s.
Well, let's put it like this. It's disturbing that you don't know for sure which is which, right? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's exactly it. Because, frankly, he does not really care.
It's like you never seen the stuff from the 80s. You see the stuff now, you think he's a dementia patient. And then you see the stuff from the 80s, and he like, oh my God, he's actually been talking like this for 40 fucking years at this
exactly.
point. Like,
exactly.
Yeah. Does he just not care, or is he just, yeah.
Well, the narcissism just gets deeper and deeper, right? I mean, it's like, and that's the thing. It's like you get to the point where he just like he could care less about reality, right? All he cares about is himself, right? And it, to a certain extent, his immediate family. But even then, it's like, you know,
not his daughter.
Well, you know, you got to keep a little something at home, right? So it's crazy. So
did you see that thing over the weekend?
What was that?
Someone in his press office got fired. Oh God! So one of the press aides was at an off-the-record dinner in front of a bunch of reporters, and she had a couple beers or a couple of drinks before that and loosened up before she talked. And she's like, "Yeah, Trump doesn't even talk to his one daughter. He thinks she's too fat." And that got leaked out, and it was just like God. Fired the next day. Like,
oh my God!
Yeah.
Oh boy. Yeah. This is the way to close out the summer.
Yeah, sorry we're being such downers.
No, it's not even just like, whoa, man. Oh God, I'm actually very glad. I mean, all the stuff you've been bringing up, even before going on the show, is like I'm glad I was not paying as much attention to the news over the past couple of days. I was doing something that was like I don't know, affirming. Right? You actually see the benefits and the products of your labor, like in a positive way, and instead of some of this. It's great to have these breaks once in a while. I'm telling you, because it's like so crazy.
Yeah.
The one thing I did. What's that? Go ahead. Sorry.
I was actually pretty glad. I'm actually starting to get back into reality after the trainings and conferences and all I've been away at the summer. So yeah.
Well, I tell you, there's So I mentioned this at the start of the show too. We're going to see. Stuff on climate action is going to be kicking up quite a bit throughout September. September 23rd is the UN Climate Action Summit in New York. This weekend, or not, next weekend, I should say, from Saturday until Monday is going to be the Northeast Regional Summit and Action from the Sunrise Movement, and they're holding regional summits all around the country in preparation for kind of building the movement here. Their website is going to be joining the global climate strike on September 20th, and they are linking up more directly with Global Climate Strike and its Extinction Rebellion got so much did so much direct action out in London and England, and the arrival of Greta Thunberg I think is only helping to consolidate that stuff. I mean, this one thing I did follow quite a bit over the past couple of weeks is has been her journey across the Atlantic on this yacht, right? This kind of zero carbon impact yacht, kind of taking that over to the UN Climate Summit. And she arrived on shore safely against the wishes of the right wing, both in Europe and the U.S., who did everything they could to try to kind of like criticize her for everything from her looks to some of her quirky mannerisms that has kind of resulted in part from Asperger's. She, I think, is teaching a whole new generation of folks about how you respond to these people too as well. I mean, like I read it before when she said, look, when haters go after your looks and differences, it means they have nowhere left to go, and then you're winning. It just harkens back to that saying, you know, first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, then you win. I mean, I think it's kind of, you know, the same kind of principle. And what was pretty amazing and touching, frankly, is she kind of talked pretty directly about what the climate movement has done. She said, you know, they can make fun of her all she wants. She said, you know, but frankly, before she started the school strike, you know, she was isolated. She was socially isolated. She didn't talk to anybody. She had an eating disorder. She felt kind of like depressed. And once she started doing something and became part of this kind of this greater movement, suddenly now she's connected to the world in ways that she'd never have been before. And she calls actually Asperger's now, instead of being, you know, criticized and kind of being beaten down by folks on the right, as one of her superpowers, right? To be able to see things in such kind of clear light. And the fact that she arrived in the shores of New York City to people chanting that sea levels are rising and so are we, has got a whole lot of promise moving forward. So welcome to the U.S., Greta. And may you help consolidate the movement here too, as well, as we try to beat back one of the worst, you know, political regimes in our history.
Mm-hmm. I know, like, even in the Capitol, there's been some students this past summer. I hadn't had a chance to speak to them, but there was a group of high school students who literally sat outside of the Capitol every day this summer with Dr. Seuss illustrations about climate change and stuff like that. And like every day, just sitting on like the pedestal with like a couple of those light poles in the front of the Capitol right before you get in the main rotunda. And you know, like they always got the attention of the lobbyists going in.
Yep, I'll tell you,
and the other people too. A lot of there were politicians that would talk to them, especially the Democrats, asking what they're doing and stuff like that. And I'm sure there were gas lobbyists there who were probably just laughing and snickering at them the whole time.
I'm sure there are. Well, you know, and again, like, this is my plug once again for folks who are interested in doing this kind of work, like at Raging Chicken. Is like, this is, you know, really to have as many more people on the ground that are actually spending the time going out and talking to these folks. I'll tell you what's going to happen. What I see happening right now is that there is a really mass movement, an energetic movement of young people that is existing just on the margins of our kind of our attentions, right? And by our, I'm using that very loosely when I'm talking about our media attentions and so on. But they're everywhere. And there's a new generation becoming politicized, and climate change is one of the things that is actually bringing into focus the connection between your kind of like your personal future, right? This election in 2020, right? And the need to kind of fundamentally remake our economy and our society. And it is coming from the ground up and is coming from the generations from below forward. And I guarantee that we're going to be seeing a lot more of these folks kind of in the future, and we should be paying attention to them now. So yeah, my little plug. But cool. So anything else going around, Sean?
Not a whole lot. We're still about a couple weeks away from legislature getting back in session. Oh, I'll tell you what so as everyone has probably noticed, I've becoming more part of the establishment out here in Harrisburg. Yeah,
Sean is, and I hope I've kind of at least helped try to silence some of those alarm bells, so just to make sure that, you know, those folks, particularly kind of the activists out there, have been beating the ground. If you're just going to, you know, keep Sean a little bit of an arm's length, you would be careful of your associations these days.
I was going to say, but this past week, I bought my first ticket ever to the PA Press Club luncheon that happens every month at the Hilton. I used to go to this as an intern with AppScuff, and I used to go there with tracking stuff over the past couple of years. It's usually like an event I can get in with just when I have my press badges. That kind of they kind of put a squash to that. But the $30 go for this luncheon, you know, paying a lot for access. But the speaker this month is going to be Katie Muth.
Ooh, nice.
Yes. So and that's the reason why I got it. Like, yeah, that's going to be phenomenal. Like, it's one thing to like watch these live on PCN, but it's another thing being in this room, like small, like ballroom of the Hilton here in Harrisburg. Crappy Hilton food, but they get 15 minutes to speak, and they get 15 minutes of rapid fire questions that are submitted through an index card. And some of these events are very good. Some of them are very terrible. Two of the worst events I've been to was Allison Schwartz back in 2013 and Scott Wagner. And McGinty. People can bomb at these things. It's an intimidating. It can be an intimidating room because it's just all lobbyists and media people and consultants, and you're speaking to them directly in this small ballroom of the Hilton. But no, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing Katie Muth speak there at the end of the month in a couple weeks.
Very cool, very cool.
And I saw that as soon as it went up there. I sent my check and it's there you go, because it's going to be fun.
There you go. Well, I've got a couple real quick things to close us out. One is that I hope everybody noticed that Trump has reestablished the U.S. Space Command, the White House ceremony this weekend. That bodes well. The big debate right now that's going on in the military circles and the space warrior circles are: do we need the U.S. Space Command and a separate Space Force, or is that really enough to have it all together under one? And that's going to get fought out in the halls of the Pentagon in the coming years. So U.S. Space Command is a thing. It has been reestablished. Ironically, it was actually it used to be around, and then George W. Bush has actually disbanded it. And so this is kind of brought back into play. And I won't go into it all right now because I could spend about 20 minutes just talking about the ins and outs of this stuff right now. But in the future, look for more discussion about that because it will have some consequences. I mean, once you reestablish something like this in an office and you put resources towards it, it's actually going to lead to some kind of tangible actions, right? Which is going to include, I believe, right, some further privatization of space. And so if you remember the British East India Company, right, which basically was a private company but was supported by military might. I see that kind of arrangement being imagined in certain sectors. So we shall see.
It's 2019. Anything's possible at this point,
dude. Man, I'll tell you. They go Space Force. So there it is. But Free Will had another double can release this past weekend at Village Fest. That is their annual Marzen, if you want to be accurate about it, style lager. It's brewed with adherence to the German tradition, right? This is where they come out of everything ahead of Oktoberfest and everything. It's actually really good beer. I'd strongly recommend it. It's not the kind of thing that is going to knock your socks off with kind of deep hops or deep, kind of biting sours, but it's a really good Marzen, so it's good. And then also the Angel Hop Blend 3. That's a no-boil IPA brewed with local Deer Creek Malt House, Keystone Pale Malt, Flaked Oats, and Castle Valley Mill Bloody Butcher Corn. And that comes in at about 6.8 ABV. And they say it has notes of soft orange cream, tangerine, citrus sap, and pineapple. So haven't tried that one yet. I had a previous version of it, and I enjoyed it. Don't know what this one is like, though. I did finish off, however, my last Pineapple Crush this past weekend, too, as well, as part of the celebration of getting the concrete footing set for the deck. And that one was, it really was a great sour. Still have to say, overall, of all the mashes that were released this summer, I'm still going back to the strawberry mash. Is probably my number one of all the mashes that were released for Free Will this summer. I look forward to where they're going in the future. And I just noticed on their Facebook page today, they've got something going on with sumac berries right now. So that's going to be kind of interesting to see what they're going to be doing with that. So anything else for the good of the order, Sean?
Nothing too much.
Yeah, doing anything else interesting for this Labor Day?
I'm probably... You're probably going to fucking hate me for this. Going to the mall after this.
I'm going to the mall. Oh my God, I'm gonna go to the mall.
No, I'm gonna
get myself a Starbucks, and I'm gonna go up the escalator, and then down the escalator, and then I'm gonna go to the elevator because it's so cool.
No, I'm probably. spruce up my wardrobe a little bit, especially for the upcoming fall and campaign season.
So everybody got that? He's going to spruce up his wardrobe. So if anybody out there is kind of wondering, has Sean joined the establishment? I would maybe wait for him outside his home and check his bags, and you'll be able to have an answer to that question. I will be in the market for getting a suit within the next couple months. So that's going to be fun. There you go.
I haven't worn a suit since.
So what kind of suit does a former hipster wear?
I want a I want a navy blue suit or a gray.
Are you not going to go with the Obama tan power suit that got torn apart on Fox News? You going with the blue power suit?
I may go with I may go with a tweed jacket.
Oh, a tweed jacket. You to get patches on the sleeves too as well?
Yeah, I might go for a tweed look a little bit. I'm not sure.
There you go. Well, we'll see what your tailor says.
But no, I have a lot of things coming up.
Yeah,
probably in the fall, and events, the stuff to go to where showing up in jeans and a Circus Survive hoodie.
Yeah, it's not going to work.
It's probably frowned upon.
There you go. There you go.
I mean, that's how I like to go into the Capitol or everything, but it's almost to the point where there's some private events or, stuff with stuff with the Young Dems and all. I can't be going to everything in jeans and a t-shirt, because I am definitely getting outclassed.
There you go, man. Well, so have fun at the mall. Oh my God.
No, I'm just running into JCPenney real quick and just get a couple shirts I was looking at the other day.
Yeah, JCPenney, and then maybe I'll take a little saunter over to Brooks Brothers and see if what they've got.
Okay. Actually, I've been looking at some Brooks Brothers shirts online for a while because of Facebook micro-targeting me with ads from Brooks Brothers. Yes, there are a couple shirts I've been eyeing up.
There you go.
Like a blue and pink striped plaid.
There you go.
But I don't want to spend $99 on a shirt.
There you go. Check his tags, everybody. JCPenney my ass.
I think Target is the classiest I'll be getting.
There you go. There you go.
But no, trust me, when I get a suit, I am going to treat myself to some Brooks Brothers shirts, I think.
Oh, my God. I can't believe this guy. There we go. Treat myself with a Brooks Brothers shirt. That sentence just came out of Sean Kitchen's mouth, everybody. I want you to know that. Oh, my God. Well, we're going to be doing our own little preparations in my neck of the woods. Tomorrow's a big day around here. It is the start of school, so my kids will go back to school tomorrow. So today we're going to spend a kind of chunk of the day just kind of getting everything ready, kind of clean up around the house, making sure they got all their clothes ready for the week. I'm probably going to go grocery shopping to make sure we've got stuff for their lunches, that kind of stuff. And we got to meet the teacher last week and got to meet both my kids' teachers, and both of them seemed absolutely awesome. To the point where my kids are very excited about going back to school, which is great. So it's kind of I always kind of love back to school. It's one of these kind of really happy moments, and then kind of wow, it's it's always takes me back. It's always pretty remarkable to see your kids start yet another year kind of moving forward. So all the best to my kids moving forward for the school year, and to everyone else who's got kids who actually just went back to school or are about to go back to school. Wish you all the best of the new school year. So this about does it for all of us here at good old Out the Coop. And by all of us, I mean Sean and I and my dog who lays down there. But we will be back next week, and we'll be kind of closing out our end of summer freewheeling. Here's kind of what we're going to talk about today stuff, and kind of get back to a little bit more routine, at least as long as Sean is allowed to by the establishment. So that'll be it. All right. Well, anything else for the good of the order, Sean?
No, nothing too much.
Nothing too much. All right. This is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken Press. Thank you all for tuning in, and we shall be back at the end of this week with another episode of Out the Coop Podcast. Take it easy. See ya!
fucking nosy. Eat your money, boy.